In this tutorial, I'm gonna show you how to make pants or overalls for your Skzoo doll. This should fit the standard 20 centimeter Skzoo. For the mini, I don't have one, so I wouldn't know how to make a pattern. This pattern could be used for both pants and overalls. It's just stopping at some point for the pants and then continuing with the overall part if you want overalls. I'm going to tell you when you can stop so that you have only the pants, or you can keep going and have the overalls. You're going to need some yarn, of course, from the color of choice. I'm going to be using this yarn that it's 2 to 3 millimeters. It's 100% cotton. It's made to make amigurumis. And I'm going to be using a crochet hook that matches that. This is a 3.25 millimeters or D3. Also, to make the overalls, you're going to need some ribbon for the straps. I'm using this ribbon and the buttons, and of course some needle and thread that matches similar to the color so that you can attach the buttons and the straps at the back. So let's get started. So to start, we're gonna go from the bottom to the top. So we're gonna start with the legs. For the legs, you are going to first do a slip stitch and then do about 20 chains. Okay, we have these 20, and the idea is that we have enough room to go around the leg and also to slip in and out easily. Please take into account that if you're going to have to seam this at the end, so this is not going to be the actual size, it's going to be a little bit bigger. So you want to make sure that this part is definitely going to fit really easily through the leg, through the little paw. Okay, after we finish this row, we're gonna start with our single crochets. So just make one single crochet all around. That's going to start the first row. And we're gonna repeat this row for around 4, I think, rows. It's just a single crochet with nothing else. Okay, then we're gonna check on the leg again to see if this size is still correct. It looks good. I already know this size, so if you're using this kind of yarn and this size of hook, it's probably going to be 20 stitches for you. Well, 19, because when we started the row we didn't chain one, so it's gonna be 19. Chain one and turn your work around, and we're going to repeat this. I'm gonna come back when I have 4 rows. Okay, so now I have 4 rows, and if we measure it against the doll, we want this part to be covered, the inside of the leg, because if you measure it with this side, it's going to be a longer, and then it's going to fall down and it's going to cover the little paw. So you want this to measure this against the inside of the leg. These are 4 rows, like I said. If you're using this size of hook, it should be around the same. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna cut the yarn. Okay, and we're going to fasten off. So before we move on, we're going to close this up so that it's like a little ring instead of being a strip. And what we're gonna do is that we put these sides together, make sure it's not twisted, and then we're going to go into the first single crochet. Well, you have to chain one and then go into the first single crochet, and go into the first single crochet of the other side, yarn over and pull through both so that you're making a slip stitch. Make sure that the tail from the start is on the other way, it's not on the way. This is going to be a little bit hard because it's really small. And we're going to go into like the first row that we can see. Stick the hook in there however you can. Doesn't have to be perfect, doesn't have to be neat because this is gonna be on the inside. Then the next one, and we continue until we reach the bottom. It's gonna be around 3 or 4 slip stitches so that we can completely close this. And at the end, I like to also go into the first one like this, like in the opposite direction, the perpendicular direction, so that it's really closed off. Like that. And after you do that, you're just going to slip this through and tie it off. And that's it. This is the first leg done. You don't have to leave that much of a tail because we're gonna sew this together. We're gonna attach it with the hook. So after you're done with this part, you can weave in this end if you want to make it neater. I'm not gonna do it because I'm just gonna tie these two together and cut them. They're gonna be on the inside. You'll see it later on. So I'm gonna do another one of these and I'm gonna come back. Please make sure that you don't cut the yarn this time. We're going to continue with the same yarn as the one from the second leg. Okay, so I have the second one and I'm gonna do the same thing where I sew it up the side. Now we have two that are the same. And we're going to start attaching them together. Now we want the seam to be on the inside of the leg so that it looks neater. So we want these two seams to match up here. And we're going to be starting at the bottom of the back so that we can make a hole for the tail. So to meet them up, we're going to be taking 4 stitches from around the seam. So 2 on this side and 2 on this side. And we're gonna join all of those together so that we have the crotch part. So sorry. You want this to be around this size, a little bit smaller, so that both of the legs can be comfortable in there. So to start that, we are right on the seam, so we don't really have that much space. This is after we finish sewing and chain 1. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna slip stitch through 2 so that I can move my hook to that side. Now you have to be it's a little bit finicky, but you have to be careful with the position of the hook. And the second one here. Now we are at the second stitch on this side. So we look for the second stitch on this one. Make sure that it's on the same side. And then we insert the hook into the first stitch. So I didn't need to do that one. I only needed one. So just insert the hook into the second stitch and then from the inside onto the outside, yeah. And then on the second stitch on this one. So this one's the first one, this one's the second one. We can go right here. It's a little bit finicky because this is the first row, so it's the chain row. And yarn over, pull through both. Okay, I'm going to chain one in between each one of these because I find it easier when joining this kind of thing. Go into the first stitch that's right on after the seam on both of them, and then yarn over, pull through all of that, and then again I'm going to do one more single crochet, no, one more chain, and then we go on the other side of the seam. So you see this is the seam. If it's too tight, you want to chain two, but I think it's gonna be just fine. I'm gonna move these tails out of the way. Pull through all of that. Chain one. And do it one more time. This is the fourth stitch and the second one on the side that is after the seam. Okay, right there. And if we look here, this is going to be the crotch area. So this side should match up with this bottom part here, right here. So let's continue. What we're gonna do now is that we're going to start moving up the pants. So hold on. Okay, after we finish that one, we just chain one and then go into the next stitch on the side that we just made. So we stitch into this one. This is the one that originally was not attached to the yarn. We're going to the next stitch and we're gonna start going around everything with single crochets again. So carefully just go in, and this part is gonna be normal, and I'm gonna show you when we reach that part, the join, how we're gonna do it. Okay, so we reach this part and we're going to be skipping the stitches that we used to join these two together and go into the other side straight in. So this one, as you can see, this one is attached to this one. So this one I don't use, this one I don't use, and I go into this one. Should be a little bit like this. And we continue around this side as well. And when we go to this part, we're gonna do something different. Okay, so we've reached these stitches as well. And what we're going to do for now is that we're gonna join these two together with a slip stitch. So the first stitch that we made, we go into that one, yarn over, pull through all of that, and then we chain one and we turn it around. We're gonna be going backwards like that. And as you can see, it's still a little bit twisted, like it should be more like that. That's because we don't have enough stitches on this part, and on this part we're gonna fix that on this row. So we're gonna start with the first stitch and we're gonna do an increase again on this same stitch. Then let's start with going all the way around, and we're going to be stopping right here where we made the join. I'm going to put a stitch marker on it right now so that we don't get lost where we're going. Okay. Okay, so this one is the last stitch, the first stitch that we did on this side of the pants. So that's why I marked it. And we're gonna make an increase here. And then on the next one, that's the stitch that's on the other side of the pants, we're gonna do another increase there. Okay, then we continue around, and as you can see, it's a little bit better now. All right, so on this last stitch, we're going to do again another increase. And we're going to slip it into the first stitch right here. And then chain one and turn it around. Hold on, that's not the right stitch. There we go. Okay, yeah, chain one, turn it around. So when we joined them together, we lost 4 stitches that we used to join this up. So we did 2 increases here and 2 increases here. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the 4 stitches that we were missing. So if you look at it right now from the front, it should be a lot more even. Still a little bit crooked, but that's because of the seam. And if we turn it inside out, it looks like a little pair of pants. Let's try it on. And you see now it looks like a pair of pants. It's still too short because we'll still need to go around up to here for it to be pants. We have to fully enclose the tail. But for now, we're gonna make another row and then we're gonna start on the hole for the tail. So this row that we're gonna make is going to be, just single crochets all the way around, no increases. Okay, then we just go into the first stitch and pull through both, chain one, turn around. So I'm gonna try it on just one more time to see if it's fitting right and to see if we can start now on the tail hole or if we need a little bit more space. Okay, so if we look here, it's right on the tail, right where it begins. So here's where I would start to make the tail hole. Now to make the tail hole, it's actually really easy. You're just not gonna slip stitch this closed at the back. Just continue making another row just like the ones that we've been making, but don't slip stitch at the end. So instead of doing this part right here, wait, at the end we leave it like this instead of going how we've been going up to now. That's that we go into the first stitch, slip, go through both. But it is important that we do chain one and turn it around to go back. So I'm gonna start with this first row. It's just single crochet again, all the way around. Okay, so we've reached, this is the last stitch. And instead of joining this one with the first one, we just chain one, turn it around, and go back on the other side. And this row, as you can see, it's gonna leave a little hole here. This row, we're gonna repeat it about 3 or 4 times until we can fully enclose this whole part of the tail. So I'm going to repeat this row a couple of times and I'm gonna be back. So I finished making a total of 3 rows where I skipped the joining at the end, and then I made another row, and this one I am going to join. This is where I'm going to close the tail hole so that it's closed on the top. So we're just going to do it as we have been doing it before. That's just a slip stitch at the end. And that's it. This is the tail hole done. We just stitch one and turn the work around, and we can continue with the work. We're going to make a couple more rows on top of that, and then we're going to start the overall part. If you want some really low pants, you can even leave it like this. After closing the tail hole, you just fasten off and weaving the ends, and that's it. But I prefer to make it a little bit longer so that you have a little bit more of space on the top, because right here this is the only thing that's holding it to the tail. I feel like that's a little bit weak, but as you can see, it fits him nicely. He gets a little bit fat on this part, so it could be a good idea to add a little more stitches on this, but if you don't, it's still going to fit just fine. And if you want to leave the pants there, you can, but I like to pull them up at least a row or two more. All right. So I'm going to start with the next row now. Here we go. Okay, so I made 8 stitches here, and I'm gonna make 1 increase here because he does get a little bit fat here. Then continue all the way around, and when I'm missing 8 stitches here, I'm gonna make an increase there. Okay, right here I'm going to make another increase. And then continue until the end. And again, we're back to going to the first stitch and slip stitch together, then just chain 1 and turn your work around. And like I told you, I think if you leave it here, it's gonna be fine for pants, but I'm going to continue so that I can make an overall. So let me just try it on. Okay, now with these 2 increases, it's gonna fit a lot better around the waist. You could leave it like that or try to make a little bit of a fancier edge, or you could add something like this to make it into a belt. Or you could just put a shirt on top of this, it's probably gonna be fine. Those are the pants. If you want to be done here, just fasten this off. And as you can see here, it's a better space right here to hold the tail. I'm going to continue for 1 more row and then gonna start the overalls. Okay, so I've completed 2 more rows on top of the one. So now we have what I would describe as really high-waisted pants. So we're going to cut off this end and fasten off. We can weave this in now or later. I'm gonna leave it for later. And now we're gonna start on the overall part. So we could do this like this, or we could do it on. I'm gonna do it right now for this. We're going to mark where the overall is gonna start. So we want to taper in a little bit from the pants, but usually you wanna start around the sides of it. So I'm gonna take 2 stitch markers after laying it really flat, really nice, really centered, just like that. And then I'm going to mark this one, and with another one I'm going to mark this one. So like so. And then if we open it up, you want this to be on the same level if you put a flag like this. So now we have these two as a reference, and we're going to start by making a slip knot, and then we're gonna slip it off of the hook. We have to go into this side because we're going like that. You gotta be careful with the direction, or else you're gonna have a line in the middle of your work, and we don't really want that. There we go. I'm going to weave in this tail as I go here. So I'm gonna put it right on top of this, and I'm gonna crochet on top of it. So we're gonna be doing a row of single crochets all the way around it. Not all the way around, until the next stitch marker. The last one is this one. Then we're just going to chain one, turn it around. We're going to, this row is gonna be different. We're gonna go do one decrease. The way that I do decreases are like this. And then go all the way around until the next stitch mark, but 2 stitches before, because we're going to do another decrease on that side as well. So here are the last 2. There we go. Then chain 1, and we're gonna do 2 decreases on either side again. So 1, then go all the way around until 2 stitches before the end, and we're gonna do another decrease. Here. There we go. And again, another row where we decrease once on either side. So 1, 2. And as you can see here, we're having a little bit of a triangle kind of shape. For the last row, we're gonna make something a little bit different. So after you finish your last row, chain 1 and turn your work. We need to make a little hole for the buttons. So I'm gonna chain another one, and I'm gonna go skip these 2 into the third one. Now you gotta make sure that your button can go through this one, or else you're gonna have to chain another one and skip another. Okay, so these are the buttons that I'm going to use. So I'm going to check to see if they can go through the hole that I made. They can go through. It's a little bit tight, but I think it's gonna be fine. It's better to have them a little bit tight. Yeah, they can go through fine. So I'm gonna stitch all the way through until I have 3 left. When I have 3 left, I'm gonna chain 2 and go into this last stitch. Then I'm going to check again with the buttons. It goes in fine. So now I can fasten off and cut the yarn. And now we only have to weave in all the ends so that we can go through with the straps. Okay, now to make the straps, you're going to need some ribbon and the buttons and a needle and thread with the matching color. You want the buttons to be around the same size as the ribbon. This just look better. If you want the ribbon to be bigger, you can, but I feel like it's better if the buttons are around the same size. Now we're gonna measure this against our doll. So we're gonna put this on. There we go. And we're going to measure the length of the shoulders to the back here. Now, if you want to, you can make them cross on the back, or you can make them cross in the middle, like from here to here. I'm gonna make them so that they match up around the side of the back. Like not in the middle, but also not on the other side, just on the same side. So I'm going to measure around here. This is where the button is gonna go. And then all the way around until here. You want to leave a little bit more so that you can sew it more comfortably. Then you can cut it later if you don't want it. Okay, now to make them both the same, I'm just going to measure this one against the ribbon and cut another one. Now, as you can see, the ends are like fraying a little bit, so if you want, you can burn this a little bit with a candle so that they don't fray like this. I'm gonna go do that and then I'm gonna come back. So here are my 2 ribbons, and as you can see, the ends are burned so that they don't fray anymore. You gotta be careful so that this doesn't happen. This I burned too much, but it doesn't matter because I can just put it in the back. So to start, first we're going to sew on the buttons. This is just regular needle and thread. This is the closest one that I have. It's not a really good match, but it doesn't really matter because it's gonna be so little. Okay, so we want to put this at the end of the ribbon, like that. I don't like it when the ends show, but if you want to put it a little bit before, that's fine. So I'm going to cover all this, and I'm gonna go from the back into the buttonhole. And then back through to the other side. And just do that a couple of times I'm gonna leave it there. Okay, and I'm gonna make a little knot right here to secure the end of the thread. And one more. There. And I'm going to cut that right here close to the button. If you're not confident in your knots, you can use a little bit of super glue or clear nail polish to keep it stuck. And then we are going to attach this strap to the back. So we're going to fit this button through so that we know where it's going to be sitting. There. And then go to the back and right here. Make sure that it's not too tight, not too loose, just right. If you don't want to use the buttons and you just want to sew this directly onto this, you can, but you gotta make sure that you have enough space to pull this down so that you can take it off. So right there, and I'm going to pin it in place just so it doesn't move. If this is too hard, you can also mark this here and then take it off and sew it on. Just one. I'm gonna sew the other one and then do the other one so I don't have to put it on again. Okay, now that I have both of them pinned together, I'm gonna make sure that they are even. I can see that they are not really that even. I'm gonna move this one a little bit to the side here. And pin it back again to check how they look now. Okay, they look a little bit better now. It's not gonna be perfect, it's handmade, but it can look all right. And I think that's fine. That's good enough. So just make sure that this isn't pinned to the actual plushie and then remove it. You can also undo the buttons, probably easier. There we go, carefully, there we go. And now we're going to sew this to here with the same needle and thread. Okay, so I'm going to sew this starting from the inside and to the outside. You only need a couple of stitches. And then I'm going to remove the pin and finish. And I'm going to do the same on the other side. Okay, and once you finish sewing those on, you are done. So let's try it on. There we go. This is the finished product. As you can see from the back, we have the straps attached to the pants with the little tail hole. The front we have overalls, and that's it. I hope you enjoyed and that it was helpful to you.